Hay historias de héroes que son impresionantes, pero esta que les trae hoy Salvadoran Power es una historia real de un enfrentamiento con la muerte, y nuestro héroe, un salvadoreño, no solamente logra salvar su vida, sino la de más de 60 personas que viajaban con él. El 24 de mayo de 1988, el mundo entero conoció al salvadoreño Carlos Dárdano como el piloto capitán que hizo un aterrizaje de emergencia de un avión comercial Boeing 737 con los dos motores apagados. Con su acción, el héroe Carlos Dárdano le salva la vida a más de 65 pasajeros y a toda la tripulación de la nave. Discovery Channel y National Geographic hicieron un documental especial para dar a conocer aquel héroe salvadoreño a todo el universo. A continuación, Salvadoran Power incluye un segmento de ese documental.
A brand new Boeing 737 is making its way through heavy thunderstorms and hail, 30,000 feet above the Gulf of Mexico. TACA Flight 110 left Belize City less than 2 hours ago, bound for New Orleans. The heavy weather the crew is now coping with is a big change from earlier in the flight. They're flying over the Gulf of Mexico in May. At this time of year, the weather is unpredictable. Violent storms can form in a matter of minutes. To avoid dangerous storms, the crew tracks the weather with onboard radar, but the technology has limitations. Captain Carlos Dárdano was born to fly. At just 29, he's the third generation in a family of pilots.
Anti-ice on.
Since I was a little child, I remember that I was dreaming on being a pilot and being around airplanes all the time.
Captain Dárdano has had to overcome tremendous obstacles to earn his wing. He went on to become a certified commercial pilot.
TACA 110 runway 28, final approach course, continue inbound. Descend at pilot's discretion, maintain 4,000.
Thank you, sir. TACA 110, 4,000.
First Officer Dionisio Lopez has more than 12,000 flight hours. He and Dárdano have flown together many times. Captain Arturo Sole is a flight instructor with TACA Airlines. He's on board today to observe the performance of this new plane. The 737-300 series. 50 kilometers from the New Orleans airport, the plane begins its final descent.
It feels like you hit a wall. There was severe turbulence in the cockpit with a lot of noise, with ice hitting the airplane.
Por favor, permanezca sentado con el cinturón de seguridad puesto.
It was awful. Lots of lightning, and the plane was having a pretty rough trip. We were getting tumbled around pretty good.
As the flight attendants take their seats. Flight attendants, please take your seats.
Suddenly, less than 17,000 feet from the ground, the flight becomes all the more terrifying. The plane has enough speed to glide, but not for long. It will rapidly lose altitude as it does. No power also means no electricity for all the onboard systems. In the New Orleans control tower, Flight 110 disappears from radar.
TACA 110 approach, say altitude. TACA 110, this is New Orleans approach control. How do you hear?
Without power, communication with the plane is now impossible. In less than a minute, the 737 drops almost 1,000 feet. It continues to fall.
We are dropping at 1,500 feet per minute.
And without power, there is no way to restart the engines. The altimeter and attitude indicator have backup battery power. Nothing else is working.
The APU started.
The APU, or Auxiliary Power Unit, is a backup generator that provides emergency power to vital systems. But starting it takes time. And with each passing second, TACA Flight 110 falls closer and closer to the water below. Without power to the engines, the state-of-the-art jetliner has become a 43-ton glider. The APU is now providing emergency power to the plane systems. But the engines are still not running. To fire up the powerful turbofan engines, the crew must follow the procedure for a complete engine restart.
Fast vital. The fuel lever's up.
The APU can generate the power to restart the engines, but it takes time.
We're on my day to New Orleans. Get us out of this storm and onto our runway.
Mayday, Mayday, Tucker 110. We're in the middle of the storm, sir. We need vectors to the runway now, sir. We lost an engine.
Both engines.
Both engines, sir. Both engines.
Understand both engines, TACA 110, roger.
The controller knows he needs to get the plane on the ground as soon as possible, even if that means sending it to another airport.
TACA 110, roger. Turn left heading 280. Vectors to Navy calendar runway 22.
Flight 110 is still 32 kilometers from New Orleans. The stricken plane has a better chance of landing at a U.S. naval base 27 kilometers away. But the plane will not make it to any airport unless they get their engines started.
9:30, hit.
Only 5,000 feet from the ground, the left engine ignites.
Speed.
Start working on the other one.
The plane can fly with only one engine, but both engines would be safer, especially in bad weather.
Request a vector back to New Orleans.
Okay, we have one engine back on.
Request vectors to New Orleans.
TACA 110, Wilco, fly heading 290. Vector around the thunderstorms to your right.
Meanwhile, Captain Soley is taking the steps to fire up the second engine.
Here comes the other one. And here comes the other one.
Speed.
All right. And you got both of them.
With both engines back, it appears the crisis is over.
Okay, sir, we have both engines back now. We really appreciate what you've done for us. We are going to go down to 310.
Then, the gauges show that the engines are overheating. They're burning up from the inside. The risk of a catastrophic engine fire now leaves Dardanel with no choice. He must do something no pilot would ever want to do: shut down both engines for good. Once again, the plane is without power and falling fast. The plane is quickly closing in on 3,000 feet. At the rate it's dropping, it won't make it to New Orleans.
Okay, where do I put this thing down?
Visibility begins to improve when the plane breaks through the storm clouds. But it's still raining, and Dardanel has less than 3 minutes to find a place to land. New Orleans is surrounded by canals and lakes. The city is protected by a system of levees, man-made barriers designed to prevent flooding. It's no place to try to land a 737.
We don't have power on the engines.
TACA 110, I'm going to vector you to Lakefront Airport. You're only 11 miles from Lakefront.
I don't think I will make it. I don't have any
Power in the engines. I guess we'll have to go down.
We're going to declare an emergency.
We're gonna have to decide where to put this thing.
TACA 110, do you have visual reference to the ground at this time?
Yes, sir.
TACA 110, there is an interstate highway directly ahead of you at 12 o'clock and 7 miles.
Let's see where it is.
11 years earlier, a Southern Airways flight facing a similar emergency was forced to land on a highway in Georgia. The crash landing killed 9 people on the ground and 63 people on board the plane.
don't think we're gonna be able to make it there.
You're 6 miles away from Lakefront Airport. Can you make it there?
No, sir, we're at 2,000 feet and losing altitude.
The crew only has one option left.
I guess I'm gonna have to make a ditching here, sir.
They must take their chances and put the plane down in the water.
TACA 110, roger. Whatever you need to do, sir.
The Coast Guard is immediately deployed. The crew of TACA Flight 110 plans to put the plane down in the canal directly ahead of them.
Okay. There. Put it down, Sophie.
The 737 can only stay in the air for another minute. As Dardanot looks for a safe stretch of canal to drop the plane in, another option appears.
Look at that one over there.
The levee is much shorter and narrower than a runway, but it looks safer than the water.
That's where we're going to go in? You got it, my friend.
They will have to act fast to get there.
Prepare the counting.
Air traffic control can no longer pick up the low-flying 737 on radar. The controller asks other planes to look for it.
6 to Kilo Alpha. If you can check your east just slightly to the south 3 to 4 miles, we lost an aircraft down there, 737. If you could let me know what you see.
Roger. Kilo Alpha to 6. I'll see what I can do.
Okay. Put the gear down. All right.
But Captain Dardanot is still flying towards the water. To have any hope of landing on the levee, he needs to make a sudden and dramatic course correction. That requires a risky maneuver known as a side slip. It's a move meant for small planes and gliders, not a 43-ton Boeing 737. But it's a risk he has to take.
Agarrate, papá.
Only 700 feet separate the plane from the ground. Without engines, the pilots have no thrust reversers to slow the plane when it touches down. Dardanot has an additional challenge. With only one eye, he's unable to gauge depth as he speeds towards the narrow, rain-soaked strip of grass.
This is it.
There's a high cement wall in front of the levee, and a steep embankment on the left. There may not be enough room to land.
Aquí te tengo, baby. Aquí te tengo.
On the soggy grass, the plane is in danger of skidding off the levee into the water.
Very good. Very good. Very good, Charlie. Very good, my friend.
Rápido, por la salida más cercana.
They told us to get off the plane, that the plane was going to blow up.
The New Orleans controller has no idea what has become of TACA Flight 110. Another aircraft relays the news to the tower.
Kilo Alpha to 6. Everything looks okay. Looks like you did a pretty good job.
They made it. You're not going to believe where they are.
For the first time in history, a 737 without any engines has landed safely outside of an airport. Now, investigators must find out why the sophisticated engines on a brand new jetliner failed in mid-flight.